The Chinese government recently reported on an incident that happened 2 years ago, where officials from a state-owned enterprise were involved in a drinking session while on a business trip abroad. They got drunk and tried to board a flight without reporting the incident, which led to criticism for their dishonesty and abuse of power. The officials named in the report were Ren Yu, former chairman and party secretary of China National Aviation Corporation, also known as AVIC, and Zhao Baohui, the former chief accountant. According to public records, AVIC is a state-owned enterprise, part of one of China's 6 major aviation transport and support groups. Its headquarters is located in Xunyi District, Beijing. The official report states that on March 21, 2024, Ren Yu, Zhao Baohui, and 7 other individuals from the company were at Frankfurt Airport in Germany. They gathered in the business class lounge, where they consumed alcohol provided there. Zhao Baohui became severely drunk and was denied boarding by Air China staff. Ren Yu pressured the crew to let the entire group board, causing a 68-minute delay and leading to complaints from other passengers. A video circulating online shows that before the flight took off, one of the AVIC team members passed out due to heavy drinking. Ren Yu, while communicating with airport staff, repeatedly said, "I'll treat your people to dinner when we get back to Beijing," and "I only had a little over 5 ounces of liquor. How could I be unable to handle it?" At the time, several Air China personnel violated regulations by allowing intoxicated individuals to board the flight. They also gave Ren and his group priority, upgrading them to first class. After returning to China, Ren, Zhao, and others concealed the facts and failed to report the situation truthfully to the authorities. As a result, they were punished, with Ren and Zhao being dismissed from their positions. The news sparked ridicule on social media abroad. Some netizens commented, "This kind of privileged treatment is the norm. It's just that this time it was exposed and caused a big impact." Others said, "The privileges of the Communist Party are everywhere. Only by overthrowing the CCP can the people live a good life." Another comment read, "This is the result of China's system. Some say the system is good, but it's like an apple, shiny on the outside, rotten inside." In fact, the Chinese authorities have issued multiple bans on drinking, but excessive drinking continues to happen. There have even been cases where officials drank to the point of death in group settings. For example, in December 2022, 6 senior CCP officials gathered for a meal and drank 7 bottles of liquor at a training session in Qinghai province. One official died from drinking. The incident wasn't reported until nearly 6 months later. On March 22, 2025, 10 officials from Henan gathered at a meeting at noon. 5 of them consumed 4 bottles of liquor, and the Deputy Secretary of the Luoshan County Political and Legal Affairs Committee, Xia Yu, passed away in the afternoon. The same situation occurs within the Chinese military. At the end of 2015, the Ministry of Defense confirmed that Zhang Yan, the commander of the 26th Army, died after drinking with 2 former subordinates from the 39th Army. In September 2017, Huang Hongfei, the political commissar of the Nanjing destroyer from the East Sea Fleet, died from alcohol poisoning. Independent commentator Du Zheng has pointed out that excessive drinking in the Chinese political scene is a top-down effect, making it difficult to eradicate. CCP General Secretary Xi Jinping in particular has always enjoyed drinking Maotai liquor. This time, several state-owned enterprise officials were criticized by the government for drunkenly boarding flights, but this kind of privilege is inherent to the authoritarian system. It is known that such individuals often retain their official status even after retirement. Last year, an elderly man suspected of being a retired official was upset after waiting for 2 hours of passport inspection at an Italian airport. He shouted that it was discrimination against Chinese people. He shouted, "The Chinese people are great." The video shows dozens of Asians waiting in line for immigration checks at an airport in Italy. An elderly man, speaking Mandarin with a hat on, shouted after waiting in line for 2 hours, saying his family members were still waiting outside.
We Chinese are great. How can they treat us this way? Do they do this to foreigners? Hell no. They're so damn harsh with us Chinese. Just 2 people doing all this? We've been standing here for 2 hours already. Our families are waiting outside. Everybody, start shouting. Shout. Come on. They don't treat Chinese people like human beings.
Yes, there are too few windows. Foreigners have already passed through, and none of them are left. They're discriminating against Chinese people.
2 people for this many of us, and they're still taking forever. They flip you upside down checking everything. Chinese passport, Chinese residency. They don't treat us like human beings at all.
Then 2 staff members approached, and the elderly man started speaking in Italian. He kept shouting,
We Chinese are great. How can they treat him like this?
Netizens joked. This elderly man clearly has the demeanor and speech of someone who was once an official. He's so used to having preferential treatment when he goes out. Some others said, he's lived his whole life, and now, once he steps out, worldview collapses. He realizes the world doesn't revolve around him. Some netizens pointed out that Chinese people traveling abroad fear 2 things: being seen as uncivilized tourists and feeling discriminated against. But sometimes it's not necessarily that others look down on them. It's the victim mentality fostered by years of CCP propaganda. Even Vietnam, which is friendly to Beijing, has been criticized by Chinese people. Recently, a Chinese woman traveling to Vietnam shared her experience of being targeted.
身为一个中国人去过这么多个国家，第一次感受到了极为不公的待遇。
As a Chinese person, I've traveled to many countries, but this is the first time I've felt such unfair treatment. We just arrived at Tan Son Nhat Airport in Ho Chi Minh City, and every checkpoint in Vietnam was aimed at Chinese people, making things difficult for us. I've seen some customs officers ask for tips, but I've never seen a country's customs officials do it so blatantly. The Chinese woman explained that she was already prepared with her e-visa materials online. Upon arrival, only Chinese people were singled out and called into a small area that looked like a hospital room. Inside this area were many Chinese people, and even if you had prepared your e-visa, it didn't matter. You had to handwrite a bunch of documents again. These were the same materials already submitted online. There were only 3 or 4 pens and counters, and everyone stood there waiting for a pen. After writing everything down, she handed it to the staff. The staff had no set procedure. They just casually said okay. Essentially, if you gave them a tip, they processed it for you. If you didn't, you had to wait. She said that after handing her materials over, the staff didn't even look at them. They just placed them with a pile of waste paper and took her prepared e-visa and passport to get a local Vietnamese visa, the one that they recognized.
请问你在干什么？都21世纪了，然后就是在填表，那个表填了有什么意义吗？
What are you doing? It's the 21st century, and you're still making us fill out forms? What's the point of filling out this form? Isn't it just a hurdle set up to make things difficult for us? I really don't understand. The Chinese woman said that when she went to the U.S., she never felt the customs process was so tense. Every step seemed designed to make things difficult. She believes that Vietnam is strong now, largely because many products that were once made in China are now being made in Vietnam. Especially after Donald Trump took office in the U.S., he pushed Vietnam to pick a side. After all, the U.S. accounts for more than 30% of global consumption, and many major factories rely on the U.S. for business. The woman asked, "Will you invest in Vietnam?" As a Chinese person, after experiencing all these difficulties, my impression of the place has really gone down. However, some netizens responded in the comment section. It's not as exaggerated as you say. I didn't even bring 2 photos for my e-visa, but I went to that counter area and waited for about 5 or 6 minutes. They stamped my visa, and I passed without filling out anything. I saw a Korean person filling something out. Other netizens said that customs does indeed have a VIP channel for skipping the line, which costs about 100 RMB. Many Westerners also pay tips to use the VIP channel, not just Chinese people. Other countries also charge money for this service, as the free channels have long lines. Don't exaggerate. Some netizens reflected, the whole world is against Chinese people. Why is this? People need to think about it. In fact, many Chinese people don't know about this policy in Vietnam. Because the design on the Chinese passport involves regional sovereignty disputes, the Vietnamese government does not directly stamp certain versions of the passport. This is why a separate visa, often referred to as a paper visa, is needed. It's an independent sheet used to replace a stamp in the passport. In other words, the process the woman went through was actually part of the system's design. She just didn't know the system existed, so she interpreted the whole process as a form of discrimination. Some netizens also mentioned that while tipping culture does exist in some Southeast Asian countries, if you have the correct materials and follow the procedures, you can usually pass through smoothly. The Chinese people, after being reformed by the Chinese Communist Party, have lost traditional Chinese morals and basic etiquette, leading to several incidents abroad in recent years. On April 7th of this year, on a flight departing from Malaysia, a Chinese man was forcibly removed from the plane for aggressively slapping a Malaysian flight attendant. A video circulating online shows a female flight attendant on a Malaysian flight complaining to the airport police before takeoff. She accused a Chinese man of slapping her. The man defended himself, saying, "Is this considered violence? You say Singapore doesn't consider this violence. Does it count as violence?" The flight attendant replied, saying whether it's violence or not will be determined by the police. She insisted the Chinese man cooperate and leave the cabin. She said, "The captain does not allow you on this plane." However, the Chinese man remained uncooperative, continuing to argue that he has a tour guide and that he's with a group. The flight attendant shot back, "Being with a group doesn't mean you can do whatever you want." The Chinese man refused to leave his seat, citing China-Malaysia relations to defend his actions. He said, "I just lightly tapped you twice, and you're not letting me on this plane. This is not my problem. China-Malaysian relations are good." But the flight attendant bluntly pointed out that his behavior was unreasonable. In the end, 2 Malaysian police officers on board forcibly escorted the man off the plane. Interestingly, sometimes these incidents are caused by people who claim to be from Chinese airlines. On April 22, 2026, around 2 a.m., an Air Asia flight was scheduled to depart from Chongqing to Kuala Lumpur. After passengers boarded, a Chinese woman who claimed to be a flight attendant from China Southern Airlines became agitated and loudly made phone calls because her friends and family had not been allowed to board. A Malaysian passenger seated next to her reminded her to lower her voice, but she refused. The argument escalated, and when the crew intervened in English, the woman complained, "Why don't you speak Chinese on an international flight? And if you can't even speak Chinese clearly, what are you doing on an international flight?" She lost control of her emotions and began shouting loudly. The captain ultimately decided to taxi back to the gate, where airport police boarded the plane to handle the situation and escorted her off. The flight was delayed for about an hour and 22 minutes. This incident sparked heated discussions online. One person said, "A product of the party-state education. These people think they have a so-called powerful motherland." She claimed to be from China Southern Airlines, but didn't say she was a flight attendant. Judging by her voice and manner, she was probably ground staff. Similar incidents of disruptions at airports also occur within China, usually caused by the individual's own mistakes. On May 17, 2025, at Shenyang Airport in Liaoning, a woman was seen kneeling and crying at the check-in counter, claiming she had missed her flight and her child had an exam the next day. The delay was due to the fact that she didn't want to take the taxi to the airport. A video circulating online shows a woman in a gray shirt kneeling at the check-in counter. She cried and said, "You're delaying me. My child has an exam." Another clip shows her kneeling and bowing, continuing to cry out. The person filming described the situation, saying she missed check-in 40 minutes before the flight, delaying her son's civil service exam the next morning. The video sparked a lot of online debate, with many netizens commenting on their lack of punctuality. This was a failure to plan their time properly. If she's already causing a scene before the child even has the job, imagine what will happen after. Forget it, if she does get in, she'll probably cause a bigger mess due to poor time management. In recent years, as tensions rise over the Taiwan Strait, some Chinese influencers intentionally traveled to Taiwan to stir up trouble and gain attention. Last year, a Chinese man named Liang applied for a tourist visa to Taiwan, but was reported by a Taiwanese citizen for posting a video on Xiaohongshu. The video referred to Taiwan as China Taiwan and added the 5-star red flag. Taiwan's immigration authorities reviewed the case and determined that this act maliciously insulted the dignity of the Republic of China, leading to a 2-year entry ban. Liang, unhappy with this decision, challenged it, claiming a violation of freedom of speech, but his appeal was rejected by the Executive Yuan in March this year. Recently, a patriotic Chinese woman living in Hong Kong visited Taiwan and posted a series of videos on social media, belittling Taiwan and promoting her political stance. This sparked intense debates between the netizens from both sides of the strait.
I
envy their high salaries, but here the cost of living is higher, the environment is older, the transportation is better, the buildings are shorter, but the cultural and scenic views are pretty good. However, I haven't felt it yet. I'm going to Taiwan for a trip again. I've already left. I don't know if they'll let me pass through customs, since I've said some negative things online. But I landed safely, and it only took an hour and 40 minutes to get here. What does the street in Taipei look like at 10 o'clock? Let me show you. It's rather simple. I walked a few streets, and there wasn't a single decent restaurant. They just gave us a little supermarket. I bought some towels, toothbrushes, and shampoo, and it cost over $800, which is pretty expensive. After reunification, our task will be heavy. I recommend everyone to come see Taiwan 101. To this day, it is still a pride of all Taiwanese people, although it now ranks 5th in China and 11th in the world. Some Taiwanese people are super arrogant, just like we are now. After we have Dongfeng missiles, aircraft carriers, and Beidou satellites, we'll feel the same. This Chinese woman, throughout her videos, critically and sarcastically comments on Taiwan's outdated infrastructure, expensive prices, and overly pro-Japanese culture. She also claims that Taiwanese people lack big-picture thinking and need to be educated by the Communist Party after reunification. When Taiwanese people reported her remarks, she displayed a strongly provocative attitude, even posting a video of herself eating instant noodles to celebrate her viral fame on the island. Some netizens commented, "Why does strength have to be built on belittling others?" She says unification is for peace. Is this a case of a thief shouting thief, or is it truly a matter of cognitive dissonance? When she mocks Taiwanese youth regarding democracy, does she realize that the freedom to criticize the government in itself is a luxury for Chinese people?